Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. Here we are. Things look a little different. What's all of this stuff? All of this new stuff. Yeah. Hey, Joey, welcome. Yeah, we have had a facelift or an overhaul or all sorts of new fancy things here in Adventures in History World, and I'm really excited about it. The the place needed a bit of sprucing up. We have been basically in the same layout for about a year, and it was getting a bit stale. So I asked a friend of the channel and a frequent viewer, Color by Emmy, to give me some ideas and to do a little bit of work on the old stream layout. And this is what we got out of it, which is amazing. I love the little guy down there. It's little Adventure Shane with his adventure hat and little map and the breeze blowing in the grass. So yeah, we've had a little bit of new stuff, little facelift of the channel, and I'm pretty excited about that. So for those of you that do not know, the show is Adventures in History, and we talk about stuff historic in nature, and we have a good time, and we make jokes, and we tell bad puns with each other, and have just a conversation in a way that most people don't think about when it comes to thinking about history. Indeed, and we have neat little hat emotes. So, yeah, I'm a teacher for a living. I teach history in college, so I do know a little bit of what I'm talking about. Of course, you are welcome to disagree. We always have room in the channel for good, healthy discussion, not necessarily for arguments, but that's not really anything that we have to worry about very much. We have a really great community here, and I am happy to be back amongst friends. So what we usually do on Thursday nights is cover history in a chronological order, but on usually every other Tuesday, but sometimes I get excited and we do them multiple Tuesdays in a row. We have viewer requests where the viewers of the channel actually submit ideas that are then voted on by the viewers in the channel. And that's how we arrived at our topic tonight, which is the history of electricity, or shocking developments in current events, which was just too great for me to pass up. There are so many really great electricity puns here. I could not offer resistance. Yeah. I hope everybody's ready for a lot more of that, because there's going to be a lot more of that. All right. So again, let me give a shout out here. Thank you to Color by Emmy. Color by Emmy streams here on Twitch, and you can go give her a follow and hang out in her room. And if you have any art design stuff that you need help with, I give my absolute and wholehearted recommendation. I'll be singing the praises of our new design here for quite some time. You're shocked over that pun. Hey, Techman, welcome. Oh yeah, shocked. I disagree. No healthy discussion. Whataboutism only. Alternatively, oh yeah, how did you like it if Hitler killed your family? That should win it all discussion. Yeah, we've actually covered a lot of really touchy topics lately, and we've done so with great grace. and it's been real fun. Hey, KP, welcome. All right, so with no more hubbub and no more to do, let's get at it. Well, I guess I should ask if anybody has any questions off the top here. Anybody want to ask anything, or anybody want to redeem any channel points or anything like that? If you are hanging around in the channel,
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus. Thanks, KP. Much appreciated, my friend. And we share our Spartacus emotes, designed by another friend and artist in the channel, Vern NYC. So I try to find people in the community that do the stuff and get them to do the stuff for the community. By the way, I want everybody to know that both the Spartacus emote there and our new layout work was paid for with funds that I got from the channel. So I am very much... Are you not entertained? Welcome, Angel. Hey, your friends. How's everybody? Hey, Zinklet. What's up? What's up? Angel, did you get eaten by that pesky alien again? Everybody go give Angel a follow. And not just give Angel a follow, but go hang out in Angel's channel. Angel is right on the cusp of breaking through to that oh so lovely affiliate. So let's make sure that Angel gets there. If you see him online, you should go hang out in his room. He plays games on stream. He's a delightful gentleman, has a nice community, so you'll fit right in. Oh, that pesky alien. Also, hey Martest, welcome, welcome. Also, hey Figment, welcome back in. Still not Spartacus, and that's fine with you. Oh yeah, good times. I was just talking with a friend of the show, Cave Geek. I was speaking with him last night about playing Alien Isolation in virtual reality, and I don't think I could do it. That game is freaky enough as it is. I don't need an alien literally eating my face. But seriously, go hang out with Angel, and it's good stuff. Good times. Why would anyone do that? They're gluttons for punishment. I don't know. The particular guy that Cave was talking about, that was his friend, actually had a haptic vest, which is basically, if you've ever played a game with a rumble pack or a controller that vibrates, imagine vibrators in a vest that you put on. So like when the alien does the tail thing and like impales you with its tail, it makes your body vibrate. That's just too much though. Sounds fun. Aliens can eat your face. Oh no, nobody needs to be face eaten. Hey DJ Cognac, welcome. Congratulations, KP, on getting your house power back on again. We have been under what is effectively a torrential downpour. It has been raining every day for about the last week and a half. And KP had some issues where water was getting into his external power box and had to have some emergency repairs done to restore power to about half of his house. Hey, 6LL25. Welcome back. I remember seeing you hang out in the chat. It's been a little while, but welcome back. I believe you asked the capital of Saudi Arabia in a random world capital redemption. And the capital of Saudi Arabia, by the way, is Riyadh. But yeah, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. I hope everybody's doing well. So yeah, so tonight we're on a viewer request stream and we're talking about electricity. Yeah, I try. I have a fairly decent memory, and there's a lot of stuff that gets lodged up here. So I try to remember members of the community, and I try to make everybody feel welcome, and I hope everybody does feel welcome. Everybody feel free to participate on whatever level you're interested in. If you want to hang out and do the... I forgot to build the lurk command. I saw Mythic Acrylic come in. DJ, I saw your suggestion in the Discord, and I appreciate that and like it, and I completely forgot to add that as a command. I need to do that soon so that we can have a lurk command. But yeah, hey, Capacitor, welcome. The gang's all here. Capacitor, we don't have the lurk command yet. I forgot to build it because I was I was implementing all of the other changes, and I neglected to do the easy thing, which is like copy and paste into a blank. Lurk denied. Yeah, Capacitor has a great name for tonight. Oh, good times. All right, so let's hit the road with the knowledge gaining and the learning and such. So we are going to talk again about the history of electricity. And I do want to take a little bit of time and talk about some idea. Martez is just going to test me. Just making it work. Just making it work. Yeah, KP, I couldn't pick between which one I wanted, so we just crammed it together. Lurk denied. We're going to talk a little bit about electrical stuff, and I do want to at least make a nod to some stuff that I know a lot of people may have heard of, especially if you've watched the History Channel, and especially if you've watched basically anything in the History Channel for the last 10 years, since they've stopped actually doing history and they've started doing what we can only suggest is history-esque, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, so there are a lot of things... Aliens. Will we cover the profession of electricity as well? You mean like people being electricians? No, we're not going to talk about people being electricians. We're going to talk about a lot of people that do experiments with electricity and how a lot of the modern techniques and things of electricity came about, but not completely talking about people that are electricians. Though it is a little bit ironic that KP needed an electrician on the day. Yeah. History Channel, the greatest false advertisement on cable. Yeah, pretty much. Right up there with MTV, talking about music TV. Yeah. This is true. You heard the pyramids created static electricity. What about space and Mars? Could we live there? There's no oxygen? So if we figured out a way to make oxygen, maybe? But, yeah, we're not going to be talking about aliens tonight. We will talk about some weird stuff. Let's talk about a couple of these things that I think some people might have heard about. And we'll start with this guy. Some people have maybe seen this image and they go, "Oh yeah, I know all about that. That's the big Egyptian light bulb." This is actually a carving at a place called Dendera. You've seen this image before, right? So some people go, "Look, this is an ancient light bulb. The Egyptians had light bulbs. Light bulbs. This is not a light bulb." Very quickly, we won't have to go through the entire history of Egyptian mythology, but very basically, this is an image that depicts the creation of the world. The goddess here is a personification. Yeah, it's a snake coming out of a lotus, correct? A hollow crystal. Hey, David. No, it's not a hollow crystal. So this goddess here is basically an embodiment of the primordial soup. The Egyptians believed that prior to the earth being created, there was basically this sort of tumultuous, chaotic water And out of that water grew a lotus, which is the flower here. And then from that flower, from that lotus proceeded the first god, which is actually very frequently referred to using the snake image here. And according to the myth, the snake protruded in a big bubble of air into the primordial chaos. That's what this is showing. This is not a light bulb. This is not a filament in a light bulb. This is a snake. Look, he's got a little head. Right? Yeah. There you go. Well, they actually do have quite a few myths that talk about that. Including one that deals a lot with Osiris being put back together and them not being able to get one of his pieces to work after they put him back together. But that's a whole other story and a whole other set of myths. Primordial Chaos is my new band name. David, what is the name of your first album? What is Primordial Chaos's first album? The First Astronaut, Apophis. Exactly. There we go. So Figments right there with me. Trust me, this was not a light bulb. This is not an indication that ancient Egyptians had electricity. This is not an indication that ancient Egyptians had any sort of light developing technology. Eggplant Snake is the name of... We're Primordial Chaos! Buy our new album, Eggplant Snake! Okay. In the UK, we'll call it Aubergine Asp. Oh, that's very clever. Very, very clever. For those of you that do not know, outside of the United States, people do not call eggplants eggplants. That is a very United Statesy thing. Most of the rest of the world calls them aubergines, or some local version of that. It is alliterative, and I appreciate that. I like the alliteration. Okay, so Egyptians don't have electricity. They don't have light bulbs. Regardless of whatever some guy with a big hair says on the History Channel, do not pay attention to that. They did not have light bulbs. Now, another thing you might have seen is this guy. And you're like, I know what that is. Well, this is what's frequently referred to as the Baghdad Battery. Yeah, what KP said. It was clearly invented in Baghdad. This is an artifact that was discovered in the 1930s. It's roughly dated back to the time of the Persians. Baghdad, of course, is in modern-day Iraq. And what we see here is a clay vessel with a zinc, what we would call here a core, and then a copper, what we might call a diode, or not a diode, insert here. And the concept is that this was some ancient battery, because if you were to fill that with an electroconductive fluid, like, say, salt water or some sort of citric acid of something, you would go, oh yeah, we're going to make electricity. And of course, this has spawned an entire thing of, well, look, if you had like a dozen of these Baghdad voltaic cells and you strung them in parallel, you could actually increase the voltage and increase the current and everything. You could then use this stuff for like electroplating and yada yada yada. Here's the problem with that. Number one, that presupposes that ancient people understood things like circuitry. They didn't understand things like circuitry. It doesn't look like a battery, right? They had invisible hollow crystals, and they never depicted it in art because it was invisible. There you go. It was just invisible, and you know, the crazy thing about it is that even though the Egyptians wrote down incredibly long, detailed accounts of even the most mundane pieces of their culture, they also forgot to mention the hollow crystals, it just slipped the mind of Egyptians for 3,000 years. You know. How to charge ye old tablet. That's what they used for anodizing. Hey, Maddie, but did they? That's the question. The amount of electricity that could be produced by one of these is tiny. Fractions of a volt. You would need multiple of these to do anything like electroplating or anodizing or any sort of galvanic cell creation. You would need lots of them. Zinc and copper, the two metal plates you do in an etching, right, because of the electroprocessing and the movement of electrons across the medium, correct. You've heard in New Zealand that what the U.S. calls bell peppers, they call it by its scientific name, capsicum. It doesn't take much voltage to electroplate. Mythbusters tested the Baghdad battery. It was barely a button cell in its voltage. Okay, I get what you're saying. Hey, Fog, welcome. Good to see you. I thought they could play with it. You would have had to put a bunch of them in sequence to get enough to push out any sort of plating. These do put out like fractions of a volt, like 0.2 volts per potential battery. So the hollow crystals could talk, and they threatened to take away all of their knowledge if the Egyptians ever wrote about them. So they were forbidden to talk about them, and yet they still never did, because we all know that humans, after being told not to do something, always follow the rules. So what was the point of it then? Maddie, that's the great question. We really don't know. There is a few different potential uses. One of them is to draw out some of the negative metallic flavors in wine, especially in places like the desert regions around Baghdad. You have a lot of particulate stuff blowing around, which can get stuck in your wine, and if there's a way to absorb some of that out of the wine prior to drinking it, this is a pretty good thing to try. But here's the thing. Just because we don't know why they actually made it doesn't mean we get to guess why they made it and make that guess any better. We've only ever found one of these. We don't have dozens and dozens and dozens of these Baghdad batteries. Had we found rooms full of them and ductile wires that were conductors that could be, organized in sequence, then we could talk about some electricity. But we've only ever found one. And that doesn't necessarily lend itself to being used as a commonplace item. Something that would have needed to be mass-produced to be effective, and we've only ever found one of them. So that by itself is a big strike against old Baghdad battery. Did humans discover static electricity? Yes, we're getting towards that. For etching, you either use zinc or copper. Their chemical reaction has nothing to do with the printmaking. Okay. Old-timey rich villager party trick, the Baghdad buzzer. Hey, Techman. That's a good one. I like the buzzer. The old-timey hand buzzer. Hey, Cave Geek, welcome. Aliens is the only right answer. When an Egyptian wrote about them, the hollow crystal wiped their memories and destroyed that tablet. This happened over and over. I see. I also realized I seem to be in chat writing a Rick and Morty episode. Oh, David. What do you mean? I studied economics. You can make guesses. Hey, Junk, welcome. Of course we do. We obviously know better than some of these savages and can clearly understand a society that only knows snippets about. Right. Cork or wax sealant bits in wine always set off the flavor a little bit. There is a little animated chain. Look at that down there. Little animated chain. Also, hey, Yvern. I saw a picture of airplane in ancient Egyptians. Did you see? I have not seen the ancient Egyptian airplane photo. I would be interested in looking at it and figuring out what it is not, because I doubt it's an actual airplane. It might be, but I doubt it. Alal, if you have a photo, you're welcome to post that in the Discord, and we'll take a look at it and see what we can figure out. That is Adventure Shane. Yes, bravely facing into the wind. All right, so what did ancient people know? Now, this gets back to the question that DJ Cognac asked. What did they know? Well, they knew about static electricity, especially from the ancient substance, and the substance itself is ancient. We all know it, and it's still around today, called amber. Amber, of course, is fossilized tree sap, and in the ancient world, the particular word for that is where we get our modern day word electricity from. It's called electron. And you're like, wait, that sounds like part of an atom. It is. The electron is named after the ancient Greek word for amber. And this is where we get electricity from. Because ancient people figured out that you could take amber and you could rub it with a fabric and it would create static electricity. So they're like, okay, there's a thing there. There's a thing. We don't pee into the wind. Yes, this is accurate. You don't spit into the wind, and you don't tug on Superman's cape either. I've been led to believe that some guy named Jim is also not one to be messed around with. Let's see. Amber isn't for electricity, it's for making dinosaurs. Anyone who used wool to keep warm in the winter knew about static electricity. Correct. So the ancient people were aware that there was this force called static electricity, but they did not call it that because they don't know what static electricity is. They just know that if you do these things with these things, it makes this little spark. They also know that there are animals in nature that have properties that can do electric-y kind of things. So they know about electric eels. They know about electric rays. And there are several instances in the ancient world where we see ancient medical professionals encouraging people, go catch one of these electric eels and see if it will shock you and see if that makes you feel better. And in a weird way, that is actually very close to modern treatment. They make these little TENS units, right? Where you put the little electrodes on and you turn the little button on and it sends little minor pulses of electricity into your muscles to work out tension in your muscles. So ancient people may have figured out inadvertently that electricity could do some minor good towards healing. But they don't understand what's making it, right? They don't understand protons and neutrons and electrons and the movement of those across mediums. They don't understand all of that stuff. Magic yellow rock. We all know that the pictograph from that particular tomb is the time-traveling photo from the booth of Circle K in Cali with two mall dudes. Yeah, everybody knows that, right? Actually, my wife and I just watched Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey a couple of weeks ago. My wife had never seen it before. We are moving in preparation to watching the third Bill and Ted, and I wanted to make sure that she saw the second one before we watched the third one. You posted it. Awesome. I'll give that a look after the stream. Many thanks. Do the Egyptians have designated people that were scientists to try to study stuff? Sort of. Religion and science were very closely related to medicine back in the ancient world. And there wasn't necessarily a distinction from those fields for a very, very long time. So people like the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Romans, all the way up through a lot of cultures into what we would call the Enlightenment, where religion and science sort of broke up and decided to see other people. there was a really big connection between religion and your health. So a lot of the people that we would know as healthcare professionals would have been priests, because a lot of the things that were ailing you could have been the forces of the outside world, or maybe an angry spirit, or maybe a god. And a lot of the things that you see people doing for ancient medicine come from priests and are designed to both heal your body, but also fix your relationship between you and the gods. I kind of just answered that. Also, leeches. Right, leeches. Yeah, you got cursed, right? So there's some negative juju or some bad magic that's been thrown in your direction. So how do you get rid of that bad magic? You counteract that with good magic. You go do a sacrifice, or you do something weird like kill things and rub things on there, and we can get into all of that later on. But also, there we are. An imbalance of humors, right? So we know that electron exists. This is, again, the Greek word. You want to see my reaction about the photo. All right, let me give it a brief look. Usually I don't open up Discord on stream because my computer is pegged out and it sometimes will crash. Okay, so right off the bat, I am feeling like those have been altered, and I don't think those are authentic, because I've never seen images like that before, and the image itself looks a little bit doctored. I don't recognize any of those symbols in that image at all. So, well, I mean, there might be one of those symbols that is a hieroglyph, but I don't recognize any of that. And I would have to look to see where they found that, where they, like the actual location where they discovered these symbols. And I would want to look at the original excavation report or archaeological report for that location, because something of that nature would almost certainly have field photos attached to it. So I'll look into that though, and we'll see if that has anything behind it. I would bet off the top that those are fabricated. Okay, so we get this word electricity from electron. In Latin, it's electrum. If you've ever played D&D, you'll know that there's a type of coin called electrum, and it's actually stolen from the old Latin stuff. I mean, and again, it happens all the time. I'm not coming down on anybody. I'm just saying, like, I feel like that's got some sketchy stuff behind it. So, who is the person that actually first used this word electricity? Well, we're going to have to go back in time, and we're going to talk about a guy named William Gilbert. William Gilbert. Who is William Gilbert? Well, William Gilbert is this guy. Hey, it's Emmy. Again, those of you that love the little adventure Shane and like the new overlays and such, Emmy is the developer of those. Thank you very, very much. I think it looks amazing, and I'm very excited about that. Anyway, we're talking about William Gilbert, who is this guy here with a big ruff, because that's the style of the day. This guy is an early scientist that does a lot of work with magnets. And his main work is this book called De Magneta, which is of magnets. And it's got this really long story about, the title is actually rather long. It's like the history of magnets and how magnetics does stuff with the planet Earth, but we all know that. Magnets, how do they even work, bro? Right, so this is what he's after. He's like, why do they work? What are these lodestone things? What's up with the magnet? And around 1600 of the modern era, William Gilbert is going to be the first person that uses the term electricus. And he uses this to refer specifically to static electricity, and he's one of the first people that hypothesizes that there might be some connection between magnets and this electricus stuff. But is there? Yeah. Well, I mean, we know today, yes, but at that time he was like, there's this weird thing and it'll tick up a rock and it'll stick to a piece of metal. It's awesome, right? How bad of a car crash was he in to have that much of a neck brace? The fantastic neck ruff, the fur-lined coat, and his top hat, absolutely. This guy, he's got all the stuff. Carriage turned over, just fully rolled. He'll be fine. Yeah, he's good. We are being visited by the puppy. If anybody would like to see the puppy, now would be the time. Hey, Agrathar, welcome. All right, so Gilbert uses electricus, but that's not electricity. Who's the first person to actually use electricity? Well, that is a different guy, and it's about 46 years later, 1646, by a guy named Thomas Brown. All right, so who is Thomas Brown? Well, Thomas Brown is this guy. Also a very proper-looking gentleman with the cravat and very well-styled hair. Anybody with cuffs that big and floppy, you know, that guy's got something going on. Thomas Brown was an English gentleman. No free puppy. No, the puppy has actually had a bit of a trying day. Well, not really trying. Well, the puppy killed a mole in the backyard and then decided that once the mole was dead and it wasn't going to be playable anymore, you couldn't play with it, that she was going to roll around in what was left. So the puppy got an emergency bath and then a full comb out, which produced a wad of fluffle roughly the size of a small cantaloupe, and then got her nails clipped, which she does not like. She's currently running around without her collar on, which we call the naked puppy. So she's being a bit of a harlot tonight. We can call her back if you all want to see the puppy, but Thomas has that, it's a book, you peasant, look. Yeah, exactly. I've had a trying day. It wasn't as bad as I maybe have made it sound, but it definitely took a substantial portion of the day. He looks like I just said something stupid and he's about to roast me. Oh, man. Let's slip the puppy of war. There we go. Okay, let me call the puppy. Oh, here's the puppy. Oh, and she has her chicken, which I am sure to make her angry about. Yes, we'll take the chicken and we'll put it here, and we'll turn the camera down so that we can see the puppy. Come and see me. Come and see me. Are you mad at me? You don't want to come and see me? Come here. Come on. There we go. There's the puppy. Oh, you're going to be sweet to me. Oh, yes, and give me sugars. Oh, my goodness gracious. You got in such a big mess today. Yeah. Do you want your chicken? You want the chicken? Arr. 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 Give me the chicken. Arr. Arr. You want to look right here? Look right here. Say, hey, everybody. You want to catch it? You want to catch it? You get down? Here, let's get down, and I'll throw it for you. You ready? Hold on. Hold on. Ready? 1, 2, catch it. Oh, good catch. Oh, yes. That was a good catch. What are you up to? You're trying to make it squeak? You want to bring it here? I'll squeak it for you. You squeaked it. Boils? You want to come back and see me again? Are you ready to go? You can go back up front if you want to. You ready to go see Brittany? Okay, go see Brittany. No, we're going to come back over here. You want to catch it again? Oh, look at there. We're getting good at it. All right. So there's the puppy. Everybody loves the puppy. Go! You either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's what puppies do. And I've managed to... There we go. Foul my chair up so it was off balance. Okay. So, yeah. We're talking about Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown is the guy that first uses the word electricity. He wrote quite a few books in the 1640s. His big one was in 1646, where he first uses electricity. And this is going to begin sort of a trend of people looking at what this is. She does definitely want to play some more. We have played quite a bit enough for me today. She'll probably go up front and bother Brittany, who may or may not pray with her. We'll see. We'll see. But she definitely wants to play more with me. Okay. What about Robert Boyle? And you're like, oh, that sounds like a great name. Who is Robert Boyle? Well, guess what? If I can get it to work, I don't have a picture of Robert Boyle. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. I have a picture of the next guy, Bobby Boyle. So Robert Boyle is a British guy. And he was, well, technically he's Irish. He's from British parents, but he was born in Ireland. We don't need to talk about what the British were doing in Ireland at that point. The answer is not fun for Irish people. But what we can remember about Robert Boyle is mostly that he was a chemist. He was first and foremost a chemist. He is referred to by some as the father of modern chemistry. He was born in 1627 and died in 1691. And Boyle is going to, all of those things that KP mentioned, pretty much what's going on over in Ireland. Robert Boyle does a lot of work with vacuums, and here we're not talking about hoovers. We're talking about tubes that have nothing inside of them. And Boyle became somewhat interested towards the very end of his career on the concept of electricity and what electricity was. And he's not going to do too many experiments, but because he had such a weighty atmosphere, such he has this kind of great gravitas, and he had become a very well-respected scientist, the fact that he was going to give any attention to this concept of electricity is really going to spur a lot of other people on. And one of the things that Boyle hypothesized was that electricity could travel across a vacuum. And that was an interesting idea, and is going to lead to some things later on that are going to end up basically being what we see in a lot, like the lights. If we look right over here, you can't see them clearly, but above me we have these great neon slash fluorescent lighting, which is basically a closed circuit tube filled not with a vacuum but with certain gases that then become excited when you shoot electricity into them, and that's what makes light. So even all the way back in the 1600s, people are coming up with ideas that are going to be influential later on, and it's more like a big long string of dominoes. Sounds like the English in Ireland. Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about. Okay, so there's Boyle. Incandescent bulbs. Yeah, there we are. With the filament. Back in the... Well, we'll get to Mr. Edison before the end of the show here. So Robert Boyle does some interesting stuff. And I should note, by the way, this particular stream could be 7 or 8 hours long. There are a lot of people that have done a lot of important things, that have developed the field of electricity as a study. A lot of people that have done really important technological inventions, advances, all sorts of new ideas. So this is going to be a little bit of a sprint from sort of touchstone or benchmark person to the next. Edison was a bully, a thief, and a con man. Hail Tesla. Okay. Someone's been perhaps mocking the Elon Muskovites a bit too much, but Otto von Guericke. And you're like, that guy's got to be German, right? Yeah, you're right. He is. At the time, Germany, of course, wasn't a country. But here we go, Otto von Guericke. This is a photograph of an etching. Such German, much Prussia. Oh, the Doge. The Doge, by the way, at that point was in Venice. Fun point. You gotta remember that. Anyway, what is von Guericke? The man, the hair, the legend. He's got that great, like, wispy mustache with just the chin comma. You find the frame a bit plain. How dull. It's only got griffins and all sorts of fruits and vines upon it. So von Guericke is an interesting guy because he was a diplomat. One of his sort of main goals, main jobs as a sort of lower level noble inside the Holy Roman Empire, was to go around to a lot of other places in Europe and make deals. And it just so happens that he figured out that people like weird stuff. And he comes up with all of these new developments, and ironically, he makes some advances in the field of electricity because he was trying to impress people. And he figured out that if he could impress people, they would be more convinced of his own intelligence, and then they would be more likely to side with him when it came to making diplomatic ideas. So this was like using the sort of the bread and circuses approach, like, hey, make a deal with my country. We'll bring you out to a cool villa in the South German hills, and I'll show you static electricity machines. And one of the things that this guy actually made in 1663 is something that he called the friction machine. And the way that this worked is that he had a very basic ball or globe that was sulfur, and it was spun on an axis against a cloth, and this would create a lot of static discharge because of the interaction between the cloth. Bum ba dum, bum ba dum bum, bum ba dum bum bum. Hey, you beef, welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Glad you could make it. Hope you're having a good one. You love the Guy Fawkes stash? Yeah. The Holy Roman Empire, the greatest bit of false advertising in the 17th century. Neither holy nor Roman nor an empire? Is that what you're after? Thanks, Dr. Nooncaster. Anyway, so he has this friction machine, and he would wheel this thing out, and he would make static pop and click and get people shocked and make people's hair stand on end. And this was one of his sort of showpieces to make people think that he was this genius guy. And he's like, oh yes, let me explain electronics to you. That was a bad German accent. We just have to get here before the Germans. That's a reference to Snatch. I don't know how many people have seen Guy Ritchie movies, but I appreciate Snatch, and well, there are a lot of his movies that I like. Otto von Guericke. Anyway, von Guericke is alive from 1602 to 1686. Funnily, you only ever had old man Nooncaster, never the younger. Well, I had a lot of that, so we're all good. Moving along a little bit further in time. Francis Hawksby. And you're like, okay, what's up with this guy? Well, it's hard to find an image of this guy, but I found this one. It's kind of small. But his Francis Hawksby, you can tell that he was a nice guy because he has a big collar. Everybody knows that people with big collars are nice guys. Well, what's up with this guy? What did he do? Why is he important? Well, he knew that there was this friction machine, right? But he looks a lot like the second guy. Yeah, he does, kind of. But it was very popular in that time to basically look very similar. It's crazy that there were particular looks that people changed themselves to look like, even in the ancient world. So one of the things that this guy did was this guy, and I was very excited to find this. This is actually his original design for his improvement on the friction machines. So he knew that von Guericke had made the friction machine, and this of course produces static electricity, but he is going to play around a lot with different substances, and he's going to start trying to work towards figuring out which particular substances work in conjunction the best, which substances seem to produce more static electricity, which ones seem to collect more static electricity. So he is going to change out the sulfur globe and the regular fabric to a glass globe, and he's going to use wool. Because wool, of course, lots of surface area, lots of opportunity to collect electrons. They all had long flowing hair to use as a gauge when studying static electricity, right? Like, it's giving them the halo thing. This is almost an early Van de Graaff generator. So the Van de Graaff machine is the thing that you put your hand on, and it makes all of your hair stand up on end. Do you use a different mic when you show pictures? The sound is quite a bit lower. No, same mic. I just have different audio settings. I can fix that, though. Like this. See, I can turn the microphone up. So I turned the microphone up, and it got a little louder. It got a little louder. Yay! How about that? Is that better? Is that better? How about now? Louder? Too loud? Not loud enough? You're not responding. Much louder. I'm sorry, Dave. Anyway, there we go. It doesn't work for me. It's a no for me. So yeah, Francis Hawksby comes up with a lot of new techniques, a lot of new ideas. And one of the things that he's going to propose is going back to this vacuum theory. Like, maybe if we could put something inside the glass that might be able to act as some sort of catalyst to the interaction that we have here, maybe we can make it even better. Now I'm a little too hot in the main screen. I haven't touched the main screen audio at all. I have not touched main screen audio slides at all. So you're hearing things. I also haven't really moved. I don't think I've moved any closer. Have I moved closer? Not a puppy. No, we're not going to put a puppy in the vacuum. We're going to put stuff like mercury. And Hawksby is going to put mercury inside of this tube. And then when he runs his friction machine, it turns out that this starts to actually glow a little bit. And this is the front runner of modern fluorescent and neon lights. The stuff that Hawksby made all the way back in like the early 1700s, 1712, 1713, is going to be basically the same principles that we use today when we make fluorescent and neon lights. So, garlic in a vacuum, or turmeric. The garlic in a vacuum would probably do a lot better for our breath. Nobody wants to have garlic breath. Everybody wants garlic bread, but nobody wants to have garlic breath. It's just the truth. I've been told that morning breath is bad, but garlic breath is worse. I don't know. What about Stephen Gray? Who's Stephen Gray? Garlic bread. This is Stephen Gray. What's up with this guy? What did he do? Well, Stephen Gray was, again, English. He was initially really interested in astronomy, and that was going to be sort of his doorway into science, was the field of astronomy. However, he's going to pivot a little bit and really get interested in this electric stuff. Nobody wants to acknowledge the elephant in the vacuum. After 2020, you've forgotten what smelling someone else's breath is like. Oh, I mean, is it a bad thing, though? Like, I've forgotten what morning breath smells like. I've forgotten what people who don't brush their teeth smell like. I think if I had to sacrifice smells, those might be on the list. Like, unwashed body. I could do without that. Oh, it's not a bad thing. Oh, okay. I'm with you, Emmy. Like, I could deal without a lot of that. So, Stephen Gray is going to start he's alive from 1666 to 1736. And around the same time that this is getting popular, there's another guy that's a big scientist that has started getting a lot of popularity, and his name was Isaac Newton. And it turned out that the last guy that we talked about, Francis Hauksbee, was actually, for a very brief time, Isaac Newton's lab assistant. So Newton, of course, is one of the most intelligent scientists that's ever lived. And because of people like Hauksbee being close to him, Newton is going to have some interest in electricity that's going to blow up everybody's interest in electricity. Isaac Newton, correct. Creator of the fig Newton, one of his biggest and most important discoveries. Because they're both fruit and cake. Newton is Newton, so that's all you need to say. Right, yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of gravity to him. Anyway, so Gray, being an astronomer, that's also something that Newton was into, is going to move over to talking about electronics and electricity. And one of the things that Gray is going to do is start really understanding that electrical charges move better through certain types of materials. And he's going to call them electrics and non-electrics. But what we call them today are conductors and insulators. The original icon for Apple computers. Correct. Also, because Apple would come before Atari in the phone book. No joke. When the Apple company was being named, it was important that they would show up higher in the phone book than Atari. Atari was one of their big competitors at the time. Or was perceived as one of their big competitors at the time. But yeah, the Apple, the Apple with the bite out of it. There's your Isaac Newton reference there. So Gray is going to start running all of these different types of experiments, and he's going to use these long wires, and he's going to run electrical currents through them, and he's going to have these wires hanging from different types of materials. And it turns out that if you suspend them from wood, that tends to not dissipate the charge. If you suspend them from fabric, that tends not to dissipate the charge. But if you hang the wire from other hooks that are made out of the same material, it turns out that the charge runs in different areas. And he's like, well, clearly electricity moves through different objects in different ways. And this is going to, again, be what we call today conductors and insulators. So we know that certain objects, like rubber, are very anti-electricity. You can't run electricity through rubber, which is why rubber is used so frequently to insulate cables and power lines and things like that.
You shall have camels, horses, an armed escort, provisions,
Desert vehicles, and tanks. Riki K, thanks very much for that bit, and welcome. Hope you're having a good one. So, we're getting a little bit closer. We're starting to see the development of things. We're starting to get the idea of things. And what we really need is a way to handle this material without having to use these big friction machines. Is there a way that we can...
Camels, horses, and all this got provisions, desert vehicles, and
Tanks again,
Well,
for the rest of those betays. Much appreciated. Rubber isn't used on power lines. It can't handle the weather. Well, there we go. Other insulators that are used on power lines. I know that linemen, people that have to work on power lines, have very specific rubber gloves that they use that are very thick. I guess I conflated that with being used on the power lines themselves. But much appreciated for the correction there. Okay, so moving along, we have a guy named George Bose. I can't spell. Bose is a German guy, and he's going to take this idea of insulators, and he's going to use that as a basis to try to capture electrical charge. So he's got a friction machine. He made your headphones. Not that guy. But he was a scientist that did a lot of other things, including working with things like sound. Do the linemen do the line dance at the local yokel hoedown? It depends on what type of hoedown and whether or not it turns into a hootenanny. It also depends on where you are in the country. Line dancing is not necessarily very popular in all parts of the country. It's a big deal down here in the South. So if you take an item that can conduct electricity and you surround it with an insulator, is there perhaps a way to trap an electrical charge? And Bose is really interested in trying to store charge. So this is an early version of a capacitor. And this is also the forerunner of a modern battery, because what Bose wants to do is hold this electrical charge until he wants to be able to use it, right? Instead of having to, spin up the friction machine and get the current running and then, have the friction machine shut off, which is not an instantaneous cut off, right? So you can't just sort of flip a switch and run the charge at a very dedicated beginning and stopping point. It's more of a slow build up and then a slow dissipation. You can't really get as accurate readings when it comes to a lot of scientific things, because you can say, well, it does this kind of, but we need to be able to turn the electricity basically on and off. And this is something that Bose is really working at. And his work is going to give us the concept of storing charge, which is, of course, going to lead us towards the creation of batteries. And only if only we had a capacitor, correct? This is going to bring us to the creation of what is the first battery. And they are called... Where are we? Where's my... I'm still getting used to the new layout. I have a little bit of a different place to type. Okay, I apologize that I have made you upset. They're called Leyden jars. There we go. Junk is already on the ball. And I have a diagram here of our Leyden jar. And this is basically our very first battery. You have a metal conductor with a stopper on it. You have some sort of fluid here that can hold electrical charge with a chain attached to it. This is lined on the inside with metal. Then you have your insulating glass around it. And then you have a metal lining on the outer surface. And what this is going to allow you to do is run lots of happy little electrons down here into the jar, and then only activate them when you touch something to the metal ball up here. And this is really going to put electricity into a different stratosphere. This is going to change the game really, really big. And there's a little bit of discussion about who actually creates the first Leyden jar. Now, so Leyden is actually named after a city, not to be confused with a laden swallow or an unladen swallow. Happy little electrons. They're all floating around. They would really like a friend. They would like a proton to go out and have fun with. But, you know, that's why they're so excited to get out. They have a lot of friends, a lot of other electron friends in the Leyden jar. And when the wire touches to the top of the Leyden jar, they just rush out. And they're all going out there to pair up and make future little atoms in the great beyond. And I'm just really excited that we have Leyden jars. Is this going to be on the test? Bob Ross will not be on the test. Okay, so we have this new thing here. We can release electricity on command. This is going to be used as the basis for dozens of new experiments. But there is this question of who came up with it first. So this is either happening in 1745 or 1746. There's a German guy named Ewald Georg von Kleist who is supposedly going to come up with the idea for a Leyden jar by himself in 1745. But there's also a guy from the Netherlands named Peter von Musschenbroek who could have been the guy that came up with it. The best guess that we can come up with is that maybe they both arose at the same time. Now, Leyden does come from the city Leiden, which is in the Netherlands, where Musschenbroek was working. So he kind of gets the benefit, even if it wasn't necessarily him. Bob Ross was famous for charging women up with a Proto-Van de Graaff and then getting people to kiss them so they got shocked. Right, so this is, again, like we're working towards things that are really neat. I did not know that specifically, Junk. That is great. The first electric kiss. That's an interesting idea. I would never have thought of that. All right. So around this time, there's going to be a lot of excitement. The Leyden jar is really going to kick off a new wave of electrical interest. People are going to be really big on trying to figure out how it moves and what it is. Some people actually thought it moved more or less like a liquid because it tended to flow, right? So we even use the word today, the flow of electrons. It's recalling water. So there are a lot of people that were trying to figure out where this came from. Excitement around stored energy. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Red Jar Jam. Welcome. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're having a good one. So about this time, there's going to be a rather famous, interesting individual, and I think you know who he is, but maybe you don't, and that's okay if you don't, but his name is Ben Franklin. Oh, Ben Franklin. The pun has potential, but it needs a little difference. Well, I'm positive that you could do better, but I won't be negative. Old Ben Franklin, here looking very much like I do when someone tells me that they forgot to take the test when the title of the test is due Friday at midnight. Really? You forgot when the test was due? The test is called exam number 5, due Friday at midnight. That's the name of the exam. Really? Ben Franklin looking perpetually ticked off. Poor man, Richard. Oh, I see what you did there. I see you. Anyway, Franklin. What's this guy? Well, somebody tells him to go fly a kite. And the first guy all night who's going bald. Well, Franklin embraced it. He kind of let himself go there at the end. Never hand him the keys to your car, right? Franklin is going to do something that's probably stupid, but it's in the name of science. So it's like, stand back, I'm going to do a science. And he decides that he's going to fly a kite in a thunderstorm. And we all maybe have heard this, but the idea here is that he had a key hanging on the end of the kite string, and that was sort of put into a container at the end of the string, and he was basically going to try to conduct electricity from lightning down into the kite, down through the wire or the string, and down past the key, which was supposedly going to be an attempt at sort of attracting the electricity, and then putting it down into his little battery here. This was the beginning of every Frankenstein movie that you've ever seen. We'll actually talk about the guy that is probably more the next guy that we talk about is the guy that's actually more responsible for Frankenstein. But this concept of conductivity, the concept that you could harness natural electricity and store it, the idea that lightning was in fact electricity, this is going to give a big breakthrough in the study of science. He's going to go on to develop the lightning rod. That is very metal. 1.21 gigawatts. Exactly. There's so many great references tonight. I'm really appreciating this. So the lightning rod, of course, doesn't mean a big hill of beans until you understand that this is how you can actually direct lightning, and this is a way to make sure that your buildings don't get burned down. This is also a way to throw off Zeus. So if Zeus is hunting you, you put a lightning rod over your buddy's house, and when he throws the lightning bolt, it'll get sucked over to your buddy's house. Speaking your language, right? Hey, Mac, welcome. So Franklin is going to begin to study the concept of lightning and how it works, and he's going to be one of the first people that gives early descriptions of the concept of positive and negative charges and how these charges might be seeking to cancel each other out and return to a more neutral natural state. And this is going to be a pretty big deal because this is going to set off a really big thing like electromania. One might even say that this set off an electric boogaloo. Because everybody just really goes on off the deep end with electricity and science. Hey, Sapphire Dallas, welcome. So many great friends. Oh, my stars and garters. A punny title. Of course, a punny title. You don't come into the room of history without a punny title, right? Bonhomme Richard, indeed. All right, so Franklin's kite incident is actually going to be a pretty big deal. It's going to turn a lot of people's heads towards electricity. People are going to take his theories and run with them. They're going to be really excited about it, and we're going to start getting to people that are going to be important because they start being recognizable because of their name, like, if I could spell, Luigi Galvani. Before long, people were trying to calculate the vortices of the luminescence ether. Yeah. They're just trying to figure out everything. Trying to figure out the sun and things in space. All sorts of stuff. So this is Luigi Galvani. Oh, the guy from Mario. Yeah, exactly. He seems very water resistant. Okay, so what we see here in this photograph is actually pretty important. We see Luigi Galvani, and he is about to partake in a dinner of frog legs. That's actually not his dinner, by the way. Luigi Galvani is going to be interested in the natural world. He is going to be the first person to pioneer the concept of bioelectricity. He wonders how things move. Like, what's the difference between a live body and a dead body? And he goes, what if, hypothesized, what if there's electricity running around inside of us? And people are like, you're crazy, Galvani. And he's like, what if I could prove it? His wife was actually his lab assistant and potentially came up with this idea. Of course, Galvani, being the man, is going to take credit for it. We don't actually know if he came up with the idea. He definitely took credit for the idea. It's pretty possible, though, that his wife came up with this concept. But he takes the legs of a frog and he attaches electrodes to them and he runs a current through it and the frog's legs start twitching. And he's like, look, I can make things move that are dead because I'm running electricity through them. Maybe electricity is what makes us move. Smarts. Cue Frankenstein, indeed. Delicious. I mean, people here they're eating the cicadas. Okay. I think they might be a little crunchy for my taste, but who knows? That poor guy sat there for 20 hours while some poor sap painted him with stinking frog legs. Luigi, what are you doing with the frog legs? He's like, I'm just making a move. And the guy's like, no, put straight, no. And I don't know what's going on there. I was trying to do something. It didn't work very well. I apologize. We don't have cicadas, but they look nasty. Yeah, there we go. I feel we need to develop an electric rifle based on the Thomas A. Swift books to override the human electrical system. So another thing Galvani does is he starts looking at how you can use electricity to affect other things. So if you've ever heard of galvanized metals, things like galvanized sheeting or galvanized nails, the process of galvanizing is actually something that he comes up with. Back in my day, we ate Tide Pods like classy idiots. Oh, good times. I don't know that anybody actually ever ate a Tide Pod. The Thomas A. Swift electric rifle. Too wordy. The taser? All right. Alessandro Volta. And you're like, I think I know what that was. I think I know what that is. That sounds interesting. So this is Alessandro Volta. You might know him from his popular navel-gazing rock band Mars Volta, which is, of course, a joke. But Alessandro Volta. Luigi was a biologist and a surgeon, and his wife was a physicist, correct? She never got credited for anything, but supposedly she was his co-author and editor on everything that he published. Right. That's probably even a little bit less generous than need be. She probably came up with a lot of the stuff, and because she was a woman and couldn't get anything published, they wrote it under his name. But you're right there. Taser, I barely know her. Oh. Did he invent the Ampere? Yes, exactly. You had an RPG character with an electric gun. All these narcissistic people putting their name on things. So Alessandro Volta is an Italian scientist. He is going to be really, really interested in improving the concept of the Leyden jar. And he wants to turn this into something that is continuous. He wants to make continuous electrical output. And he's going to begin working around with a lot of different types of metals that are electrically active across electronically conductive mediums. And this guy is going to be the dude that makes the first copper zinc battery, which is still used in a lot of situations today. Now, we don't all use copper zinc batteries because they're not actually as effective as a lot of the batteries that we use today. But if you grew up like I did in the 80s and then in the 90s, you used batteries all the time that had copper and zinc inside of them. And because of this continuous output and his studies in making sure that he was able to not only store electricity, but be able to push that current out at a continuous direct current, the unit of current is named after him. Them Game Boys had to be powered by something. If you had a Game Gear, you used them like a fire hose. 6 AA. And you got about 8 hours of gameplay out of it. Is it a copper top? Maybe. I was always more of a Duracell guy, not so much of an Energizer guy. Because here's a fun fact from old Shane's history. I hated the Energizer Bunny. I thought it was a dumb mascot. I know. I really did. I hated the Energizer Bunny. In one of my fanfics that I wrote as a 9th grader in high school, I had the Energizer Bunny die a horrible, horrible death. I did. I wonder if I still have that fanfic somewhere. I just didn't like the Energizer Bunny. Anyway, Volta figured out that the current potential in batteries and biological systems was a property of the material used. Yes, which was the later basis of figuring out valence shells and free electrons. Correct. Which is also like the reason why he picked the copper and the zinc, because they seem to have the best relationship together without getting it. The bunny got around. I don't know what happened to a lot of those stories. I thought at one time that I still had them, and I think I might still have them somewhere. But if I do have them, they're still on a floppy disk, which means that I need to transfer them as quickly as possible off of the floppy disks, because those are not permanent media. All right. But we're moving along. Andre Marie Ampere. Starting to sound familiar? You're wondering what's up with this guy? Well, here he is. Andre Marie Ampere. I don't have any 5 1/4s. I'm not that old. I mean, I was that old, but I didn't actually save anything on those. By the time I got to a computer that had word processor, I was all on 3.5. You had the Handy Boy Game Boy accessory. That thing sucked up batteries like crazy. Yes. Volta named galvanization after Galvani, but they didn't get along because Galvani didn't like that Volta contradicted his theories of biological electricity. Yeah, there is a lot of arguing. I should note that it's fair that there are a lot of arguments between these people. They're all living roughly at the same time. There is accusation of theft of ideas. There's open arguing of sort of he publishes something, then I publish something that disproves that, so then he calls me a horrible thing and publishes another paper that disproves my disposition. Lots of back and forths. And of course there is obviously the big theft of ideas that we'll talk about a little bit later, but that's going on pretty frequently. Those were back in the days when sword fights would break on whose journal paper was right. Oh, good gracious. Yeah, so Ampere, he is a French guy. He is really going to be interested in electromagnetism. He's also really interested in making different types of wires, and he's interested in concepts of currents. And one of his sort of big, sort of keynote ideas is this explanation of what happens when you run electricity through certain types of wires. And he noted that if you run electricity in a certain way through a certain type of wire, if you run wires parallel, basically suspended in the air by some apparatus, and you run electricity along both of these parallel wires, they attract. And it seems like there might be some sort of magnetic effect going on here. Now, we know today that you can actually make an electromagnet by coiling wires in a certain way and running a certain type of electrical current through that. We know all of this stuff now. Ampere was hardcore. Scholarship was hardcore back in the day, yes. And we think our modern peer review process is tough. Yeah, you just get chewed out by the peer review board and you have to go back and add extra footnotes. You don't get challenged to a duel. Yeah, this actually reminds me. Figment sent me... Figment and I went to grad school together. One of the things that she sent me when we were about to defend our theses was this meme, and it had a guy, we're both history majors, by the way, it had a guy in period armor with a giant two-handed broadsword, and it said the best thesis defense is a thesis offense, and he's like running at the reviewers, brandishing this giant two-handed broadsword. It was great. I had a good chuckle of that. So remember that, boys and girls. The best thesis defense is a good thesis offense. So because of his work with the currents and how currents moved, of course, Ampere is going to give the name amp. So amps are measures of electric current. By the way, volts are measures of electrical force. This is, of course, from Alessandro Volta. So there are other units of electrical relationship. What are they? Let's just go down the list, right? So the next one is George Ohm. And this is not the Ohm from India, by the way, or Hinduism. This is George Ohm. Where is his photograph? Here we are. Ampere basically invented electrodynamics and figured out that the electron existed. Correct. Junk Collector, I feel like I needed to have you on as a guest for this particular discussion. If things well tonight, I'm sure. Oh no, KP, no. Oh, anyway, that's George Ohm. What is he up to? Well, he's a German guy, and Ohm was pretty interested in Volta's battery, and had an idea of basically trying to figure out how to use it the best. And again, I'm simplifying a lot of this stuff. So he's going to start basically running currents through stuff. Now, we all know at this point that there are differences between conductors and insulators, but he's also going to start noticing that the longer of a wire you run this across, the less force is at the end. So over time, if you took one of Volta's batteries and hooked it up to a wire, you run it a little while in a short distance, and it holds about the same charge. But the longer distance you run, the less powerful that force is at the end of the wire. And he goes, well, let's see what happens if I make my wires out of different materials. And so he makes wires out of copper and out of zinc and out of iron and out of all these different types of metals. He needs to resist the happiness. Omega of Borg. Ah, ha, ha, ha. One of us assimilate. But what Ohm figures out is that certain materials have different properties that seem to cause a degradation of force from the source to the end, and he starts saying that there's some sort of resistance, that there's something resisting the electrical force along these wires. This is why the unit of electrical resistance is called an ohm. So if you've ever had to run speaker cables in your car, you'll know that you need certain types of wires for certain types of speakers or you're going to blow them up. Right? Because you have to have certain amounts of resistance to keep that going. If it's too low of a resistance, it's going to put too much force at the end. You're going to blow your speakers. Don't blow your speakers, kids. Right? They're expensive and they sound like garbage. Nah. Fake news. Yeah. So, good old Ohm. Ohm, by the way, is alive from 1789 to 1854. I realize that I've been a little bit off of the timeline here. So, we have moved over into the 1800s. Most of Ohm's work is in the 1830s, 40s, and 50s. Let's not confuse people with absolute resistance and intrinsic impedance. Yeah, let's not do that. So let's talk about a guy that is probably deserving of a unit of electricity named after him, but doesn't actually have one. Michael Faraday. Here is Michael Faraday. Boom. Michael Faraday is alive 1791 to 1867. He is a British scientist. Faraday's a unit of magnetism, right? But not electricity. He needs something with electricity. But I guess, he was a magnet guy too. He's big on magnetism and light and all sorts of fun stuff. He sure looks magnetic. Oh, yeah. Classy guy. Indeed, indeed. So, what's up with Faraday? Well, this guy really is going to be a big innovator. He is a really, really important guy who sets up a lot of really important ideas. So, he's also a unit of cage. Yes, a Faraday cage. One of his inventions, he figures out that there are certain ways that you can construct a cage and use certain types of materials and electrical currents, and you can effectively create a null space inside that does not allow any sort of charges to pass through because of the way that the fields are overlapping. You can basically cancel out all the charges. Faraday is also really interested in the use of magnetism and especially electromagnetism on the properties of light. And this is really advanced physics stuff that I don't understand myself, so I'm not going to get too far into it. But he does a lot of study on the effects of light moving through electromagnetic fields, which we know now exists, but I could not explain it to you because I am not a particle physicist. A Faraday cage is approximately 5.7 Nick cages. The Faraday cage is your best way to keep people from calling you about your car's warranty. Oh, man. Good times. So, one of the things that he's also going to do, and this guy, for real, Faraday has so many things that are attributed to him. He has all sorts of equations that are based on him, or based on his work that he comes up with. And note I said based on his work. He wasn't actually that great of a mathematician. He posited a lot of these concepts, and then mathematicians and scientists that came after him looked at what he did and then developed the math that would prove what he said. Like he was right in his assertions, but he didn't have the high-level ordinal math stuff that he needed to write the actual formulas out. But he legit came up with a lot of this stuff. The Faraday constant. All you know about Nick Cage is that his face is an ancient mosaic of women exercising. Okay, I don't get that one, Figment. Wasn't he self-educated? Mostly. He didn't have a lot of formal schooling. He never really did. So the college system back then was a lot different. Of course, they didn't have public education in the same way that we do today. His family didn't have necessarily a lot to do. Yeah, he didn't he didn't know calculus or trigonometry or any of that stuff. He could do some basic stuff and then say, this works, I promise. And then again, later scientists would come behind him and actually show the work where he was correct. But when he starts applying this magnet and electronics idea, he's going to be the creator of something that is going to literally change the way the electricity works in the world. Faraday got his answers right, but the teachers are like, you need to show your work. He's like, it's right. He's like, just show your work. It's like, oh no, hell, you fail. Forget you. Which is why Maxwell was able to run with his work and make the holy grail of physics. Yeah, again, the theft. A mosaic villa in Italy, floor mosaic. You've never stared harder or longer at a mosaic and looking at it. Why does that look like Nick Cage? Okay. And then that was the conversation for at least 20 minutes. Okay. Chat's dropping some knowledge tonight. Yes, just like knowledge bombs. I'm loving this stuff. It's great. So Faraday is going to come up with a particular design that uses magnetics to conduct not to conduct electricity, to create electricity. And the mechanism that he comes up with is essentially the blueprint for all modern electrical motors. He is going to create the first dynamo, which is Well, it's a mechanical object that produces electricity with spinning magnets and particular types of metals. You wouldn't say that Maxwell's equations were theft, just filling in the blanks. Via Romana de Casali. Okay, Figment, I'm just going to take your word on that one. I am lost on where you saw that or the story. You can fill me in later. I'm not following it. I don't really get how Nick Cage is involved, but alas, he's there. So, if you've heard of direct current and alternating current, AC/DC, Back in Black kind of stuff, alternating current is going to be a different type of electrical current. Direct current, of course, is basically straight in a line. It's sort of more or less what happens when you put a battery in something. It's direct current. But we also have this stuff like electrical light switches, and we have these substations, and basically our modern electrical grid is based on a mix of direct current and alternating current. Well, alternating current only exists because of Faraday's work. This guy is going to create the groundwork of what becomes alternating current. He is super duper important. Angus is proud and thunderstruck. Indeed. So Faraday's really, really important, and he doesn't have a lot of love. A lot of people don't know very much about him. Everybody that wants to talk about this wants to talk about, the Teslas and the Edisons, which is where we're headed. Speaking of the Teslas and the Edisons, let's go ahead and get to the Edison. Thomas Edison, he's a guy, and he's an important dude. Let's not take it away from him. Here we go, old Tommy Ed. Every engineer has cursed his brilliant name and fundamentals of circuitry. Well, there you go. You got to understand it there to make it work, right, Junk? Edison, 1847 to 1931. Edison's an important guy. He's an American. One of his things was that when Edison starts working, most of the big advances in electrics were being done over in Europe, and America was pretty far behind. And Edison sort of had this idea that there was an American tradition with electricity, going back to Ben Franklin. But America had not caught up with Europe. A lot of the big cities, especially cities like Paris and some of the smaller cities in more developed European countries, had a lot of electrical infrastructure that was already being built, especially night lights. So you have whale oil, which was a big thing for a long time. You have kerosene street lights, but a lot of places in Europe had been developing street lamps that were using electrical networks that were being run by big dynamos, and that's something that hadn't picked up in the United States yet. Okay, I see you, Figment. Always reminds me of the meme, if I steal a Tesla, it becomes an Edison, ? Our electrical company is Con Edison. There we go. So one of the things that he wants to do is work on electricity, and he really falls in love with this concept of lighting. And he wants to light up the darkness. And I don't think that a lot of people really understand how different our world is since the invention of electricity, and especially electric lights, than it was prior to that. This is not something that is very, very old. Internal electrical lighting in people's homes, if we really look at it, is less than 100 years old. The reason I'm able to sit here on my computer with lights on that you can use to see me when it's pitch black dark outside is because of electrical lighting. This has fundamentally changed the way that humans operate. Our hours of sleep have gone down. The times that we're active have changed. People are working more hours. this is really fundamentally changing human concepts. We can sit inside when it's dark and still do stuff and not have to burn a candle or burn a lamp. We can just turn on a light switch. So we can stop using daylight savings time since we're not burning candle wax anymore. Pretty much. So that's who to blame for working long hours. We would not have a midnight shift at the plant if the plant didn't have electricity to run at night. It's just the reality of the situation. So he really gets on this lighting kick, and he's going to try to build citywide lighting structures. And to do that, he's going to have to make a lot of inventions that change the way that power gets transmitted. And this is going to have a lot to do with the way that you produce the power, the way that you store the power, and the types of materials that you use to run the power out. So like today in our modern electrical grids, we have power generating plants, but then we have substations. Imagine an entire network that was basically just all substations. And at these substations, you'd have these big dynamos that were producing electricity, and these would be sent out usually for Edison in pretty weak direct current situations. And the further away you are, the less likely your electricity was to work. And he's also very famous for building the light bulb. But he's going to be one of the first successful people to get electricity to work in a big system in the United States. And here we go. The man that I think everybody was probably waiting for tonight to talk about, good old Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla, this guy here. So, no, not Elon Musk. You know what? You're gonna get a bit of a free opinion hat. Elon Musk is not Jesus. Elon Musk is not going to save us. Elon Musk is a rich kid that plays with other people's lives. He didn't really invent any of the stuff that he has in his company. He just paid people to do it and then slapped his name on it. The car, he didn't build the car. The rockets, he didn't build the rockets. None of his stuff is really his stuff. He just gets to throw money at problems until somebody else comes up with a solution and then gets to take credit for it. That's not necessarily a genius. That's just a rich kid with a lot of money. Elon Musk probably hasn't come up with anything new except for the name of his kid in the last 20 years. He's not going to save the world. And I really wish people would stop worshiping him like he's the next Messiah. So, there's a little bit of an opinion on Elon Musk for you. Oh, man, that guy. He's a wreck. He's a wreck. Anyway, to be fair, I don't think he's claiming to invent this stuff. To be fair, he doesn't also act like he didn't invent it. There's a difference between saying, no. The smart people that work for me that I paid relatively little money came up with these great things. And there's a difference between saying, oh yeah, my company that I run, that I'm in charge of. Me, my company, yeah. Hey, Kelly. So, Nikola Tesla. Let me show you his image and we'll get back to talking about him. Here we go. Handsome gentleman, Nikola Tesla. He is a Serb. He was born in the Austrian Empire back when Austria controlled that region. He is... no, not Charlie Chaplin. He is going to go to work in Paris, and he works in Paris for a little while, and he ends up coming over to America. He actually goes to work for Edison's power company. And while he's there, he has a lot of really good ideas. He's going to start working on an electrical motor that works on alternating current. This was utterly revolutionary at the time. He's going to make a lot of advances in how to transmit electricity using alternating current. And then he's going to end up not working at Edison Company anymore. And there's a lot of hard feelings here. There was supposed to be, and I don't know if we will ever know exactly what went on here, but the long and the short of it is that there was apparently some promise of a substantial bonus if he was able to solve a few problems that he was then able to solve. He did not get the bonus. And then, of course, Edison Company is going to take credit for a lot of this stuff and start implementing a lot of his ideas. Tesla is going to try to go out on his own and start several different companies that never necessarily get completely off of the ground. But what he is going to start working on are some truly amazing electrical inventions, including the Tesla coil, which of course we know is the basis for one of the best weapons in the Fallout universe. You heard he was an alien. He's not an alien. Musk creeps you out, and you honestly don't know why. He just does. Well, that animation in the corner is adorable. Yes, Kelly, that was made by Color by Emmy. So the new layout that we have here with our new fonts and our great new images that give us a sense of depth and all of this fun stuff, that was designed and created by Color by Emmy, our friend here in the chat. So I greatly appreciate it. Yes, if you are streaming and you are interested in fancy new things like I have today, you should give Emmy all of your money because she's a cool person. Very, very easy to work with, very professional. I had a great experience, and when things level out and I get used to this kind of stuff, we might bring some new changes in, but I don't know. I gotta worry about a computer too. Or let me earn your money. However it gets there. Anyway, so Tesla, one of the things that Tesla is really going to work on that is revolutionary and potentially world-changing is the wireless transmission of electricity. Wire-free power. And one of the things that he's very famous for is conducting these experiments where he has Tesla coils that emit electricity in such a way that he could create a field of electricity that would basically run a fluorescent light from across a stage. So he turns it on. It's not connected by a wire, but the light bulb lights up because he's wirelessly transmitting the electricity to the fluorescent light bulb. Fun fact, the Tesla coil started out as Tesla's attempt to replace the light bulb. Yes. I was also known for creating a cloning device, though the device was Oh, man. I did not see that particular twist coming. The other magic movie that came out at the time, I did see that twist coming. Random Tesla fact. Tesla lived the majority of the end of his life in a hotel, basically penniless. Another random Tesla fact. After successfully creating patents that other people would go on to make millions of dollars off of, Tesla found himself absolutely broke and had to dig ditches for a living. One of the most brilliant minds in electrical history just did not get the American dream that he was looking for. In his work with wireless transmission of electricity, Tesla is going to become very interested in invisible waves, including things like ultraviolet light, X-rays, radio waves. And this is going to lead him to do a lot of work with those, especially radio waves and X-rays. Tesla was also kind of a jerk, and everybody hated working from him, according to... Yeah, well, that's true. He did have a bit of a temper. He didn't speak English as a first language, vapor waves, microwaves, all sorts of waves. But he is going to theorize the wireless transmission of data and electricity way before we have wireless internet. But a lot of the ideas that we have behind things like wireless internet and conduction charging, so now we don't have, you put your phone down on a little mat and it charges it without using a cable. A lot of that stuff is based on Tesla's work. And he was a really smart guy that unfortunately had a very tragic life that did not get him a lot of the credit that he deserved. But we are going to end it there with Tesla. By the time we get to Tesla, we have working alternating current stuff. Hold out, you're leaving up Maxwell Hertz. I don't have time because there's, like I said at the beginning, there are too many people to try to cover in one stream, and I was focusing mostly on people that did electrical stuff, and I know that Maxwell did stuff, and I know that Hertz did stuff, but we don't have the time because I am out of time. We are at the end. We have reached our natural conclusion point, and in fact, it's actually a little bit further beyond where I expected it to be because everybody got super excited about talking, which I love. Also, the creator of the Hertz Donut and Hertz Rent-A-Car. Shane, what's your Twitter handle? I don't do the Twitter much, but you are welcome to twit at me at some history guy. I'm really bad at social media, but if you can use this stream to promote your stuff, you are welcome to, and I will do, well, if I remember how, I'll go do the retweet stuff, and the couples and couples of followers that I have will see the work. All right, so that's where I'm going to wrap up tonight, but as always, this does not have to be the end of the show. If anybody has questions or additions, or if anybody wants to spend any you've spoken to both of his followers. That's not even a burn, it's just the truth. If anybody wants to spend any points or bring up any topics, now is the time. Otherwise, I am about to go see whom we might raid. We are going to raid him. Or her. Or them. Can I just say, watch the VOD and roll back about 20 minutes? What's my opinion of Elon Musk? Joey, I think Joey just has the points to burn, man. Joey just likes seeing the world burn. I've never met Elon Musk. I've seen interviews that he's done. I've seen him on speeches that he's put out, and he hasn't impressed me. He made a lot of money off of selling a website back when you could do that sort of thing, and since then, honestly, I feel like he's just ridden the wave of I have giant stacks of money, which I guess you can do if you have giant stacks of money, but he can wreck people's futures by being a jerk. Like, he can go, like, if he, for example, right now, if he went on Twitter and said, I'm going to sell all of my Dogecoin, people that had bought into his messiahship would lose tens of thousands of dollars because he felt like being a jerk. But that's what happens when you have crazy amounts of money, because you don't have to have any sort of repercussions. You can just buy your way out of it, right? Rank 3 things. Atlantis aside, Pick your most interesting unsolved historical mysteries. Wow, that's a great one. Unsolved historical mysteries. Number one, off the top of my head, gotta be my favorite. Where is Washukani? Washukani was the capital of the Mitanni Empire back in the height of the Bronze Age, and we don't know where it is. Of the 4 or 5 big empires at the time, we do not know where that capital is. We know where the capital of the Hittites were. We know where the capital of the Egyptians was. We know where the capital of Assyria and Babylonia were. We do not know where the capital of Mitanni was. It is almost certainly a place where we could dig up a royal library, which would have almost certainly lots of tablets, which would shed a lot of light on where things happened and how things went down in the Bronze Age. Washukani. Yeah. I'll type it here. It's Washukani. It's the capital of the Mitanni Empire. Number 2, where is Alexander's body? That would be really cool to know. I would like to know where Alexander the Great's body is. We know where it was last seen, but we don't know where it is. It might be at the bottom of the Mediterranean right now. That's quite possible. What would be number 3? There's so many that are cool things. Well, I guess I could be a little bit of a cheat and go, where was Genghis Khan buried? We don't know where Genghis Khan was buried because a lot of those people killed themselves. D.B. Cooper, yeah, I jumped out of a plane and nobody knows who I was. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? His actual name was Guglielmo Marconi, and he got a Nobel Prize in Physics. I'm missing people. Isn't he a little old for you, Shane? Elon Musk's living room. He must have been. How does he must have been? While Tesla was talking about the possibility of wireless power, Marconi was building radios and radio telescopes. Lost in time. Hey, Crafting Canvas, welcome. We have lots of people in the room, and I feel like I should do shout-outs before we leave. Because we have cool folks. And it's time. Back in 30 seconds. Got a chicken sandwich ad. So I want to go ahead and give you a shout out anyway. Crafting Canvas, great streamer, hangs out usually a little bit later than I stream, but does cool stuff. Has very cute bunnies. Great stream. Does a lot of 3D design stuff and programs that I don't understand that are way above my head, but really cool. You tried the McDonald's crispy chicken sandwich and it's not so bad. And it is so bad, alas. Again, Color by Emmy. All of the beautiful new stuff that you see is thanks to Color by Emmy. Also does some streaming. Go follow Emmy. We've got Mythic Acrylic, who streams painting stuff and is, again, a delightful human being. You should go follow Mythic Acrylic. We've got the Cave Geek. That's not who I want. There we go. Go follow Cave Geek, who makes awesome art using pyrography on authentic buckskin. Who else am I missing? Who am I missing? Tell me who I'm missing here. Oh, there we go. We have Red Jar of Jam, who is a art streamer that does some really cool stuff. Was just recently working on a commission of Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. So if that's sort of your thing, you should go check out Red Jar of Jam. There's a level of whimsy in Red Jar of Jam's art that hits me in the hearts. Again, we had a raid from Angel, who is a gaming streamer, but also a great guy. So go give Angel a follow. Yes, we got... Let me get that right. If you're not already following Joby Dore, you should follow Joby Dore because Joby Dore is a great artist, but he also runs a podcast with our friend here, Moose. And they're going to have Larry Elmore on the podcast on Sunday. Larry Elmore of D&D and fantasy illustration Paragon level fame. Really, really cool stuff. Everybody should go check out Joby Dore's stream and check out the art condition on YouTube and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Lots of awesome and really cool people. David's still working here. Great friend. Really great guy, David Peterson, writer and illustrator and colorist of Mouse Guard. One of the most generous individuals that I've ever met in my life. Great streamer. I would not be here streaming if it were not for David. Has done an enormous amount to help me get this off the ground. Go follow David. He's a great dude, and you will not be upset about that. I feel like I might be missing some people, and if I'm missing some people, I do apologize. Kelly, when are you going to start streaming again? When are you going to start streaming? Go follow Kelly, because she's going to start streaming again, and you'll enjoy her room too. And if you're really nice and ask her politely, she might do a postcard and send it to you with some original art on it. Yeah, I love the streaming community and the group of people that have managed to get put together in the wonderful mix that is this channel. It just makes me warm on the inside, you know? It's like that nostalgic feeling that you get when you think about home. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate this community. I love the fact that we can come here and talk about stuff that would really get a lot of people set off and get a lot of people upset. And it's just cool because because we're all okay with the fact that we have different opinions, because we can have different opinions and still be friends, right? So thank you all for hanging out. It has been an amazing night. I really do appreciate all of the interaction. You all are super cool. Let's see who we are going to go raid. I need to check the old register of raiders. Non-streamers unite, or untie. I love all of my non-streaming friends too. You all make the channel what it is. Everybody that wants to come here and spend time listening to some dude that looks like me run his mouth about historical stuff is a cool person in my book. Oh yeah, Craft, we started about 2 hours ago. So we've been going for quite a while now. And we talked about all sorts of can I sum up the stream in a sentence? Ancient people didn't know what electricity was, comma, but people during the Enlightenment started to figure it out, comma. And then people in the late 1800s and early 1900s really figured out what it took to make it be what it is today. One sentence, 2 hours worth of stuff. There we go. Semicolon, Elon Musk is a con man. I had a bit of a rant. I get a little bit hot under the collar. Okay. We are going to go raid the cat videos. I don't know how many of you follow cat videos. Cat Videos is a delightful streamer who does all sorts of traditional artwork and is currently working on a piece that is just full of nature spirits. We have Koroks from the Legend of Zelda universe. There are Kodamas from Princess Mononoke. All sorts of really delightful traditional art views. And, well, it looks like she might be on a break. So maybe I'll talk a little bit more. Anybody have any questions? Anybody want to ask anything before we head out? She's not drawing cannibal skeleton mushrooms again, is she? No. She's drawing this lovely little thing. What's in the news? Let's talk about Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is a country in Western Africa that a lot of people don't know about. For example, if I asked you to find Burkina Faso on the map here, would anybody know where Burkina Faso is? And you don't have to feel bad about this, by the way. Nobody should ever feel bad about not knowing something. I just wanted to point out that this is not something that you talk about a lot in the news, and especially here in America, where we're all so insulated. We don't really hear about things that are going on in the outside world. This is Burkina Faso. It borders Mali, and it borders the country of Niger. But in the northern part of Burkina Faso, right around here, late last week and over the weekend, there were an unknown number of terrorist-aligned individuals that went into a village in the northern part of Burkina Faso and killed somewhere around 160 people. They killed all of the men first that were sort of age of being able to resist, and it appears that they locked a lot of the old people and children in a building and then burned down the building. This is an unfortunate occurrence that is happening a lot more frequently because of the expansion of the Sahara Desert. Sahara is getting larger, so countries, especially here along the border, are having to deal with water shortages, food supply shortages, all sorts of conflicts are arising from this. And one of the things that is driving a lot of that is very strict Muslim terrorist organizations that are very set on establishing Sharia law in a lot of these countries. So if you've heard of the group Boko Haram, you might have also heard of Al-Qaeda, which has affiliate networks through this region in Africa. But there's also something called the Islamic State Western Province. So if you'll remember ISIS or Daesh, depending on where you are in the world, there was a group over here in Africa that claimed to be part of the Islamic State. And these groups are all fighting amongst themselves to sort of be the dominant terrorist organization in the region. One of the leaders of Boko Haram appears to have recently killed himself instead of being taken alive. And stuff like this is happening all over the place. And it stretches not just over here in Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger, but also into Chad and Sudan. This whole region right here in what is northern Central Africa is becoming an unfortunate hotbed of terrorist activity where civilians are being targeted because of their resistance to this particularly strict interpretation of Islamic law. So this is something to keep an eyeball on, because these networks are becoming more organized and a lot of people aren't paying attention to them because they're from Africa. And just to be honest, because people are in Africa, they're going to have a lower level of priority when it comes to news anyway. And stuff like 160 citizens being murdered in Burkina Faso goes over without anybody noticing anything about it. So keep an eyeball on that stuff. It's a crazy world out there, my friends. But remember that we all have a lot more in common than it seems. And remember that you can disagree with somebody and still be friends with them. There's a limit to how far that goes, though. If they're being, if they're going to go kill somebody, that's kind of a move where you probably don't need to be friends with those people. Similar to what's happening with Myanmar. Similar, yes. Is there anything good in the news? Yeah. I just don't know what it is right now. This is not good, but this is something else that's a little bit more funny in the news. Emmanuel Macron was touring a small city in France, and a woman slapped him today. So that's not necessarily good, but it's kind of funny. So. All right, so I see that Kat is back from her break. We are going to go raid Cat Videos. Again, Cat Videos is a great streamer. You should give Cat Videos all of the love and all of the follows. If you are raiding with us and you have no emotes, that's great. Fine. Our battle cry is adventure. You can yell adventure and put all of the fun exclamation marks in there. If you do have emotes, if you would be so kind as to throw all of the lovely adventure hats into the ring, that would be amazing. Thank you all so very, very much. I had a great time tonight, and I hope you all did too. And remember that just because it's history doesn't mean it has to be boring. You all are great. Hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time. And I'll see you next time, especially if I can find my mouse so that I can click on the outro button. Take it easy.